Hello friends. In this review, we will get acquainted with the Pro version of the Aqara Z1 switch, about the basic version of which I have already talked before, and we will find out what their differences are and how the side panel is used in the Pro version. In addition, we will talk about the features of the functionality of the maximum 4-button version. This is relevant for both the Pro and the standard version. We will check compatibility with various smart home management systems and make an external converter for Zigbee to MQTT. Before we start, please like this video as it helps promote it on YouTube, and also subscribe to my channel so you don't miss new reviews and lessons. Device type, built-in wall switch. Model, Aqara Z1 Pro. Interface, Zigbee 3.0. Number of buttons, from 1 to 4. In the review, the maximum version with 4 buttons. Additionally, touch dimmer. Neutral presence optional. Energy monitoring, only with neutral line. Power, minimum 3 watts for mode without neutral, maximum 2,200 watts for 100 watts for LED fixtures. Control application, Aqara Home, China region. Size, 86 by 86 by 33.5 millimeters. Operating temperature range, -10 to +40 C. Humidity, 0 to 95%. The device comes in a cardboard box with the brand's logo and color printing. Most of the inscriptions are in hieroglyphs, as the switch is intended for the domestic Chinese market. On the back, its parameters are listed, which I have already mentioned. By the way, they are similar to the standard version of the Aqara Z1, the main difference being the logical dimmer, which I will talk about later. The package includes the switch, in this case, a black version with 4 buttons, a small manual, and mounting hardware. The manual is entirely in Chinese, but you can use a camera and Google Translator if needed, although I will cover all the main points in this video. As we remember from previous videos about the Aqara Z1, this series is characterized by a horizontal arrangement of buttons. By the way, if you haven't watched those reviews, you will find links in the description. For the standard version, the panel on the left remains in use, but in the Pro version, it serves as a logical dimmer. The back part, as you can see, is not designed to be installed in a round socket, only a square one. There are 5 screw contacts on the back, incoming phase and neutral, and like in the Z1, the neutral line here is optional, but if it's there, then the switch will not depend on the presence of a load connected to it. And 3 outgoing phases. Notice, 3, although there are 4 buttons. The feature of this switch is that the 4th button is logical. This applies to both the Z1 and Z1 Pro versions. Here's a comparison with the 2-button Aqara Z1 I mentioned, which I showed in my previous videos. Externally, aside from the color, these versions can be distinguished by a series of circles on the side panel. If they are present, it means it's the Pro version with a dimmer. In addition, the 4-button versions have a lower logical button. This is a touch panel. It is logical, meaning it is designed for use in automations with controllable lighting fixtures. Physical lines here can only be turned on or off. To remove the top cover, you need to pry it up from the bottom to unclip it from the switch itself. This removes the button and dimmer block, which connect to the main part via a connector block. Thus, it can be installed and secured in a square socket. I will conduct tests with the neutral line connected. Again, the switch works without it, but in such a case, it depends on the presence and power of the load. At least 3 watts, also without the neutral, the energy monitoring function will not work. The function in the Zigbee network is an in-device, regardless of the neutral connection. Here's my test setup. The phase of the socket is connected to the L3 output of the switch with a common neutral. After being powered on, the device enters pairing mode. We'll start the logical part of the review with the official app, Aqara Home, mainland China region. I'm using the Aqara M2 as a gateway, which is the global version, with the firmware up to date as of the video date. Select the Aqara Z1 Pro from the list of devices to launch the corresponding connection wizard. From the gateway's perspective, it doesn't matter which device you choose here, as the connection mode is the same, universal for all. But by choosing the correct device, you'll see how to manually put it into connection mode. To do this, press one of the 3 relay control buttons twice and then hold it until the backlight starts flashing. After connecting, the system suggests naming, choosing an icon, type of use, and location for each of the 3 buttons that control the relay. Right after connecting, the first thing I do is check for firmware updates. Out of the box, it had a version ending in 28, with the current one being 31. We update, which takes some time. Incidentally, the basic Z1 version with 2 buttons also received an update numbered 31. The plugin has a standard appearance for switches. In the center, there is control for the 3 physical lines, below which is the energy monitoring panel, which will only work when the neutral line is connected. The settings menu below allows you to put the 3 upper buttons into logical mode, so pressing them won't switch the relay, and also choose how each of the 4 device buttons will be displayed. This implies naming and location, as the switch can control devices in different rooms. You can change its type, switch, light, fan, or something else, and select an appropriate icon. Now let's hear how it works. Compared to others, it's quite quiet. Next, there is a double control setting menu. This synchronizes this switch with another one controlling a physical line. In this case, the button is detached from the relay and works in logical mode. It's roughly the same as working through automation since there's no direct binding here. The only difference is the synchronization and backlight of the button. I showed how this works in the video about the 2-button Aqara Z1. The link is in the description. The General Settings menu. Along with standard options such as changing the display, checking firmware, signal quality, operation log, and list of automations, there is an important tab with additional settings. Here you can configure the switch's behavior after power restoration. By default, it will return to its previous status. You can also set it to turn all lines on or off, or reverse, change the state to the opposite. Each relay of the device can be locked. What does this mean? When you activate this switch, the current state of the relay is fixed, and it cannot be changed either by the button or through the app. After deactivating this mode, control of the relay becomes available again. There are settings for the logical button. It can work in speed mode, creating no other events besides click, ensuring a quick response by not waiting to see if there will be a double click. In the second mode, it generates all types of events, single and double click, hold. The sensitivity of the touch panel can also be customized. The Mars Tech menu allows you to set the type of connected load, normal, logical, and pulse mode. This is the same as for the standard version of the Aqara Z1. Just in case, I'll remind you how it works. Smart Load Mode works with another Zigbee device connected to the same gateway as the switch. As an example, an Aqara bulb. Upon activation, the button is detached from the relay and works in wireless mode. Currently, the first button in this mode controls a Zigbee bulb, and the third button controls a physical line to which an incandescent bulb is connected. A feature is that control works through direct binding. I specifically turned off the gateway, but the button still controls the bulb. Pulse mode simulates a momentary switch. Upon its activation, the relay closes, and when the button is pressed, it opens for a period set in the settings from 300 to 2000 milliseconds. Moreover, the button backlight works alternately, showing only one of the states. Now let's move on to automations. The switch can work both in the if section, as an event generator, or as a condition, and in the then section of actions. Let's start with the first. The number of options depends on the mode of the switch, and this is what they look like in speed mode. The first 4 options are related to the device's relay. These are either an event, turning a selected relay on or off, or a state, on or off, for use as conditions. The next 4 conditions introduce confusion since all are related to clicks. In the click menu, you can select a button, and all 4 are available, for example, for use in the mode where buttons are detached from the relay. The condition selected from here works for all buttons. However, the next three options do not work in any form. If you switch to multiple press mode, then after the click menu with button selection, two more options appear. Double-click and hold for the fourth button. For the first three buttons, there is only a single click, and this does not change. These options also work normally. Hopefully, unnecessary options will be removed, but for now, they're there. Remember not to select them. For lights, in this case, bulbs, and automations, there are options for smooth adjustment of brightness or color temperature. If you choose button presses as the trigger, then smooth adjustment is not available. But if you select slide touch, they can be used. Thus, the hero of our review includes the functions of both a switch and a wireless dimmer. In the Actions section, you can control the state of the relay, turn it on, turn it off, or toggle the state to the opposite. You can also control the backlight indicators and lock or unlock the relay. An example of how automations work in controlling a bulb, the fourth button is responsible for turning it on and off, and brightness is adjusted by the dimmer. Now, let's start checking compatibility with other control systems, beginning with Apple HomeKit, where the Aqara M2 gateway is connected in bridge mode. As we see, control is available only for the Aqara bulb, but not for the switch. Remember, the basic version of the Aqara Z1 is also not available here, so there was no surprise. Next, I disconnect the switch from the Aqara M2 gateway, at which point it automatically enters pairing mode, and I'll check its compatibility with Aqara Home, but on the European server. Here, I have the Aqara E1 gateway installed, with firmware up to date as of the test date. When manually selecting devices in the switch section, only the H1 EU models are available. However, as I said, the connection mode on the gateway is the same for all devices, so it doesn't matter what is chosen here. Nonetheless, the Aqara Z1 Pro, as well as the basic version, is not supported here, meaning there is no data about this switch on European servers, and it cannot be used, just like the basic version. In Mihome, support for the basic version of the Aqara Z1 has been added. I even made a separate video about it. The link is in the description. Let's check this model. I am using the mainland China region and Xiaomi Gateway 3. In the list of devices, the basic version is available. I choose the 4-button one, which differs only by the absence of a dimmer. However, as of the date of the test, there is no support for the Pro version. It is evident that something connected to the gateway, but there is no data in the cloud about what the device is and how to work with it. Though, I do not rule out that it will be added at some time, as happened with the basic version. Not so long ago, reviews dedicated to the Sonoff iHost local smart home controller were released on my channel, which provides an opportunity to check compatibility with it as well. The current firmware version as of the test date is 1.13.3. I start the mode for connecting new devices and put the switch into pairing mode. The device was detected and connected. The switch works with Sonoff iHost, but only in the most basic version, controlling the relay, of which there are 3. They can be turned on and off, both together and separately, and feedback works properly. There are no additional options, only turning on and off. But for such purposes, it makes sense to buy a simpler and cheaper device. Since iHost is connected to Google Nest through the Matter protocol, this compatibility can also be checked. With the controller detected, 3 relays also appeared in Google Home. Now it's time to move on to Home Assistant, starting with the standard integration for working with Zigbee devices, ZHA. As a coordinator, I am using a Sonoff Zigbee USB stick with multipan, RCP, firmware supporting Zigbee and Thread. I start the connection mode, and the system detects the switch. It's immediately apparent that some objects have been identified. Let's see what exactly. So, available are all 3 relays and 2 energy monitoring sensors, power and energy consumption. In addition, there's a standard identification button. Controlling the relay works correctly, and here are the default names for the switches, which differ from each other by the numbers at the end. However, the numbering of the relays is in reverse order. What is listed here first actually controls the 3rd one, to which a load, a bulb, is connected. The monitoring sensor did not update for some time, leading me to think it might not be working. By the way, you can see on the left that the switch is an end device, regardless of the neutral line connection. After some time, the value appeared. The interval is around a minute. The same thing happens when the relay is turned off. the sensor continues to show the load for about a minute. And the last system for today will be Zigbee 2 MQTT, tested on version 1.35.2. By the way, it is in this version that official support for the basic version of the Aqara Z1 switches is announced, although, at least as of the date of the video, it still requires significant improvements. As expected, the Z1 Pro model is not supported. However, this allows us to test new functionality that enables interaction with unsupported devices. The system identified the model of the switch, which will be useful later. Its type, as I already mentioned, is an in device. Indeed, despite the model being unknown to the system, both monitoring sensors and all three relays were displayed here. But there is little use in this, as nothing works anyway. We hope that this will be improved. Another interesting option is the automatic generation of the device definition. This isn't yet a complete external converter, only part of it. Here, for comparison, is the converter code I managed to create. Considering that not so long ago there were changes in Zigbee 2 MQTT related also to converters, I had to create it almost from scratch. Many templates I had didn't work, and it was necessary to check almost every line. The converter is a text file with a .js extension that needs to be saved in the Zigbee 2 MQTT folder. At its beginning, there are links to the libraries called in the converter. By the way, there have also been changes here. Specifically, the Xiaomi library is now replaced with Lumi. Next is the definition block: model, manufacturer, name, what data is transmitted and received, description, and capabilities of individual entities. In this case, in addition to the three relays, there's also a wireless button. I must say, to achieve full functionality, similar to what we saw in Aqara Home, further development is needed, but I simply do not have the time for it physically. Therefore, I had to settle for basic functions. To add it to the system, you need to go to the Settings menu, select the External Converters item, add a new line, and insert the name of the converter file, which, as we remember, must be stored in the folder where the add-in is installed. After that, it needs to be reloaded. Another innovation is that previously, if there were errors in the converter, Zigbee 2 MQTT would not load. Now, the add-in loads, but without the erroneous converter. In the logs, on the corresponding tab, or in the text file, the path to which is visible in this screenshot, there is a record indicating what exactly it dislikes. I managed to create a working version of the converter that allows working with this device in some capacity. You will find the link to it in the description under the video, but it still needs work. What was achieved? Energy monitoring sensors, power, and voltage. The device's temperature sensor. Behavior after power restoration is available but does not work, as does the mode selection for the fourth button. Relay control. All three have been added and all work normally. The mode for detaching buttons from the relay also works, but I was unable to launch the relay lock. This is how the switch appears in the MQTT integration, through which it is passed into Home Assistant. Pressing the fourth button generates only one event, single, and the mode switch, as I said, does not work. The exact same event is generated when pressing the physical buttons both in relay control mode and in detached mode. On one hand, this is correct, but on the other, I was unable to add a button identifier, so for the system, they are the same. I like the concept, a kind of universal all-in-one combine, featuring control of physical lines and a logical button with 3 types of presses, plus a dimmer. However, the logical button is only available in the 4-button version. Also noteworthy is the ability to work with and without a neutral line and the availability of energy monitoring when the neutral is connected. The smart load mode is interesting, operating on the principle of direct binding. I hope that full support will appear in Zigbee 2 MQTT with the implementation of all these features for both the basic and pro versions. As of the review date, the functionality of the Z1 is not fully implemented yet. That's all. I hope this video was useful and interesting to you. I would appreciate your likes as it helps promote the video on YouTube. If you don't want to miss new reviews and lessons, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. In the description, I will leave links to stores where you can buy this device, to other videos on this topic, as well as my Telegram channel, Facebook page, and a group for discussing smart home topics. Join us. It will be interesting. Thank you for your attention. Until we meet again, peace to everyone.